All right. So today I want to talk a little bit about working with authentication in the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. Now, I'll talk a bit about identity, but I'm not going to cover all the different authentication schemes you can use across the platform. That's a giant topic, so I suggest that you look at some videos from past user conferences and dev summits. There's a lot of material out there for it. There's a great guide page that talks about all the different methods that you could use. All the way down to like API keys, ArcGIS identity, app credentials. Then there's authentication for web apps. There's authentication for runtime and desktop applications and different things you can do, right? Whether you're an online or enterprise portal, right? Those are like different authentication schemes you can use in those environments. So like I said, it's a huge topic, but I'm just going to cover some of the basics about questions I get asked a lot. I have an app. I've got some protected services or content in my online portal, and I need to be able to access it for myself and for other people in my organization, right? Maybe by group or something else. So let's look at how you can do something like that. So here I've got a map I made in the map viewer. All right, just a real basic map. It's just a cluster of data, and it's shared just for me. This is my developer account, so this is not like a full-on org, but it's going to be very similar into what you want to do. However, when I run my app here, you can see I've got a web map and I'm creating it. It's forced me to log in, so I need to log into my account to be able to see it. And I could do this, and it'll work, but I'm going to have to re-log in every time I load this particular application. That's probably not what I want. Some things you can do too, like if I go to try to share this or something like that, right? So I can go share map. I can share it to my organization, which is really just an org of me, or share it to everyone. I don't want to share it to everyone, right? Or if you're in an org, maybe you have groups that you want to share to a particular group of users. You can set that group up and stuff. And yeah, like I said, there's a lot of different things you can do there in that particular case. But I just need to get it so that I could use it, or maybe other people in my organization can use it. So how would you do that? Let's take a look at creating authentication for my my app. All right, so go to my content here, open that in a new tab. All right, so yeah, turn that off. I got a bunch of stuff in here, don't worry about it. I'm gonna go create a new item, and I'm gonna create application. All right, now I'm gonna create a web map, and I want its URL, but this is mostly for my purposes, right? So I have a URL reference when I look at this. Oh, this is for this particular application or this application. I'm just gonna make this my localhost dev, right? I'll talk about the fact that I think you should also create OAuth authentication for local development, and then your OAuth authentication for your deployed development. So you could use the same client ID for OAuth for all your local development, but then each of your separate apps will have their own client IDs for deployment and production builds as well, right? And how you do that, I'll leave it up to you. I'll show you a way that I would do it here in this particular app. So I'm going to click next. And then I'll give it a title. I'm just going to say this is my local dev app, or local dev authentication. Let's call it that, because it's very clearly just going to be for my authentication. So I'll create this, and it's going to go ahead and give me my item ID for the authentication. I kind of wish it was like a different thumbnail because it's obviously an app. But whatever, I can change this thumbnail if I want to. So now if I come over here to settings, you've got some stuff in here, right? So I want to go ahead and register this. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a redirect URL. My redirect URL is going to be this localhost. So I'll copy that in here. And I'll just put star because, I don't know, maybe. Add that in here and I'm good to go. I guess there's different types. I don't mess with these. So I guess if you've got like a runtime and you want to redirect here, and those are different looking kind of URL schemes. So, okay, let's register that. All right. this is pretty much all I need. I need this app ID here. All right, so I'm gonna copy this over here. Now I'm gonna do is I happen to be using Vite, but this will be very similar if you're using like Webpack or something like that. I want to create a .env file. So env, and I'm gonna call this Vite. What should I call this? I guess I'll call it app ID. All right, app ID is gonna be equal to what I just copied over here. I don't need the client secret. I'm not gonna show you my client secret. I don't want you stealing my stuff, right? And that's pretty much it here. That's all I need at this point. I always thought it's kind of weird. I guess you can share this application with everyone, which I think kind of defeats the purpose. But this would be useful if I want to make sure it's only shared to my, not just me, but my entire organization. And I believe if you're also an organization, you have option to share it to a group as well. So if I had different groups set up, I could set up group sharing for people to be able to access this as well. So I just assign a bunch of people to a group, share it to that group, and I don't have to worry about assigning it to the whole org or individual people or anything like that. Just, yeah. So that's one thing you can do here. So, okay, I'm done with that. That's all you have to do in online at that point. So I no longer have to do any other work there. So at this point, I'm going to start working with the IdentityManager. Okay, so it's come my file here. The way you do this for Vite is going to look like this. So I'm pretty much going to say that my const, we'll do it like this, app ID is going to be equal to import.meta.env.appID, like so. Is that right? Was it, is that what I called it? Yeah, no, Vite app ID. Sorry. All the environment variables in Vite have to start with Vite. Same with, I think if you use like Next.js, they start with Next. Right, so okay, so there's my app ID. Still is going to work because I need to use IdentityManager to set everything up. So again, look at the documentation for IdentityManager. There's quite a bit going on here. It is a singleton in the API, meaning that you don't instantiate a new IdentityManager. There's only one for every time you load up your app. And the IdentityManager credentials are going to get used every time a request is made to a particular URL or something like that that it knows it needs a token for, right? And there's some requests that get made to check for stuff like that. So it'll handle all that stuff for you. You just have to register the OAuth information so to be able to do that, right? So let's try to do some stuff here. So give me 1 second. Okay, so basically all I wanted to do here was add a small button to be able to let me log in and log out. Well, not gonna let me log in technically. It's gonna let me log out, I should say. So it's just a button to let me log out. I can't see it because I still gotta log in, right? I gotta set all that work up. So what I have here is this file that I use a lot. I use this just about everywhere I need authentication for. And it's the same basic setup, right? I need a way to initialize the IdentityManager using the app ID. I need a way to check if I'm already logged in or not, right? So just if I'm not, then I know that I need to log in. I have a sign-in method, so a way to actually log in with IdentityManager, and then a way to log out, which you may or may not want, depending on your application. And then these little helper methods here, a way to fetch my credentials. So if I'm not signed in, I want to actually fetch the credentials and then use those to make sure that I'm signed in or not. And then maybe I want to fetch user information. I'll show you how you can do that as well. So this is a basic skeleton structure of things I want to do. Initialize, sign in, and sign out. The rest is just kind of a helper stuff. So, okay, how am I going to initialize the IdentityManager? Well, first off, let's go ahead and let's wrap all this code into a load method. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to import the Oauth method. So we're going to import some stuff from Oauth. I want to import check current status, and let's do sign in for now. All right, so what I want to do first is I want to, well, I'm going to want to check the current status, but first thing I need to do is set up my whole OAuth stuff, right? So let's go and get that done. So I need to initialize. I should have brought in Initialize here. So, okay, let's initialize. And I'm gonna have another helper. So this is let's call this function load map. And let's call this async function load app. Not gonna get confused at all. And we'll right away we're gonna load app. Because I want to use some async await, but I don't have top level await yet, and I don't want to add any helpers for it. So, okay, so load app. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the OAuth info. So we're going to say const OAuth info. If I could spell, it's going to be equal to await the initialize method with the app ID. Right, and we'll just console.log that here to make sure that we've got the OAuth info. I need to set up. I haven't done anything yet, so I need to initialize what actually happens here. So when I initialize the method, I'm going to say that const OAuth info is going to be equal to, and I can actually close this up over here. There we go. Okay, so OAuth info is going to be equal to new OAuth info. And I just need to give it the app ID. Bam. So at this point, I need to register this OAuth info with the IdentityManager. So IdentityManager dot register OAuth infos, and then just pass it an array with the OAuth info. Because yes, you can have more than one. Not going to get into that because it's not really necessary for what we're doing. And then just return the OAuth info. As a matter of fact, now I'm looking at this. It doesn't need to be a promise here. It's just initialize. Nothing is like specials happening just yet. So, okay. Why is it doing that? Oh, because this is async. Let me remove that. Boom, like that. Okay, so here's my credentials with the app ID and, you know, so on. Nothing is set up really just yet for the OAuth info. Okay? Although I should set some stuff up. Here's a good point. Things you need to know. Give me a second here. Okay, so in the JS API resources GitHub repo, there is a sample for OAuth in here. Make this a little bigger. There is this OAuth callback HTML page that you're going to want. So if I come over here, I want to make a folder, a public folder. And in that public folder, I want to add the OAuth callback.html page. Now, you're going to want this page if you're going to want the little pop-up for the IdentityManager, right? You don't need it. I don't believe you need it if you're going to let the IdentityManager take you to the login page in online, and then once you log in, it's going to redirect you back to where you came from. That flow should just work without the OAuth callback page, but if you want that pop-up to show up, you need the callback page, and then it's going to go ahead and update your application with the authentication credentials that you know that, oh, yeah, you've been authenticated, right? And there's like a small little explanation here in the README about how it works. So you set, if you have set OAuth info's pop-up property to true, you need to host a callback page on your server, right? So you just save it there. You can change the location of the name or the name of this page by saying the pop-up callback URL. So if you don't want this particular page to be called this somewhere for whatever reason, you can change it. Completely up to you. Okay, let's come back to our app now. So, okay, we took care of that. So we got our OAuth info. Next thing we want to do is we want to check the status, right? So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and say that when I get my credentials, it should, I want to get the credentials for my app if I've already logged in. So let's do this. Const credentials are going to be equal to await check current status. And I'm going to pass it the OAuth info that I got back from the initialize. All right. And let's remove this log. And let's do another log for the credentials. And again, undefined because I haven't made this method yet. So, okay. So this is going to be another async stuff that I'm going to do here. So for these purposes, I'm going to wrap this in a try catch. All right. So I'm going to try, and I'll just do it here. I'll catch the error, and I'm just going to I'll log it. I was going to throw a new error, but I'll warn with the error info. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get the credential. So const credential is going to be equal to await IdentityManager dot check sign-in status. So it has a method already on it to check for the sign-in status, right? And I'm doing an await here because it is asynchronous. And I want to check it against a URL. I want to check it against the sharing URL of the OAuth info. So the way you do that is I'm going to wrap it like so in a template string, and it's going to get the OAuth info dot portal URL slash sharing. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and return that credential. Awesome. So not authenticated, right? So user is not signed in. That's me. Haven't signed in yet. So, okay. Here's what I can do over here. So in the main.js file, so if, and I'll say credential, since I only got one, I'm only expecting one credential back, not an array or something like that. So if not credential, we want to sign in. Okay. So we're going to, let's do a let here, just in case, like so. Yeah, let credential. And then we're going to go and say that credential is going to be equal to await, and then my little sign-in method I've got here. I need to pass my OAuth info to that. Okay. So, all right. So now I need to write that sign-in method. So let's copy this here, take that out, put that down here now, and let's go and write the sign-in method. Okay, so here's my sign-in. And it even tells you, I have some little doc here for me, just to help me out, telling me what I want to do. So sign-in method actually is going to handle the checking current status for me. So I don't necessarily need to do it myself. I can just have it sign in for me automatically. So this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do another try catch. And it's just console.warn pass the error again. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to say that const credential is going to be equal to await check current status with the OAuth info that I got, and then I'll return it, right? So that's basically what that one does. Or if something happens here, instead of the error, console.warn the error out, I want to say that const credential is going to be equal to await, and I have a method here called fetch credentials. Pass it the OAuth info, and I'll return the credential, right? So the sign-in is going to handle it for me. The way I wrote my sign-in method here, it's going to check if I'm logged in or not. If I am, just return the credential back and let me do what I need to do. If not, then let's go ahead and let's start prompting the whole sign-in dialog and stuff using fetch credentials. And that's what fetch credentials is going to do. So now if I go down to fetch credentials over here, again, wrapping everything in try catch, error, and I'm going to go console.warn. So used to write and log the error. All right, so let's do a try. And this is where we start using IdentityManager to get my credentials for me. Okay, so I'm going to say that const credential is going to be equal to await IdentityManager.get credential. I mean, it's very, the name tells you exactly what it's going to do. Right, so get credential. And in this case here, what I want to do, oops, not object yet. I need to pass the sharing URL. So let me go and copy this over here. So I need to get the credential from the Oauth info sharing URL over here. And then I want to go ahead and set some stuff up here. So actually, I don't think I need anything here. I think I might just be able to do this. Let's try this. Let's just try it like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and return the credential, right? So if we come over here to the sign-in method, that's what it's doing here. It gets my credential, returns a credential. Same thing fetch credentials is going to do over here. Like so. And let's come over here and let's change. Well, no, I'm doing sign in here. Okay. So let's do it like this. I didn't like that. Okay, so sign in should take this into consideration. So if I get an error, it's going to do it anyway. So we'll do this here. Or fetch credentials, right? And if I get an error, we're going to do the same thing because something went wrong there. Okay, here we go. So at this point, I'm already signed in on this tab over here to my account. So it's going to ask me if I want to give me permission. This user, it's currently signed in, permission to use this account. Now, because I'm already signed in, I'm good. If I weren't signed in, I would get prompted to log in over here. So I'm going to go and allow it, and it redirect me back. Okay, great. So now in my main.js file, what I can do here is I can say that after I've done both of these things, if credential, then we can go ahead and load the map. There we go. That's weird. I'm not setting anything. Okay, let's do this. Let me come back over here. So I'm zoomed into a particular cell. I'll zoom in closer. For some reason, didn't like that. Save. Saving. And saved. So if I refresh, it should bring me to the right. Yeah, brought me to the right extent. So there we go. So there's my map. I'm logged in. All right, easy enough. So let me make a sign out method now. So maybe for whatever reason, my workflow, I want to let the user now sign out, right? So sign out's pretty easy. So let's do something like, I don't know. Let's go ahead and do it over here. I'll do it in here. So let's say that button auth.add event listener. We'll say click. And we'll just say sign out. I don't need the auth info, nothing like that to sign out, right? So should have imported for me. I did imported. Okay, so now the sign out method. I mean, this is pretty straightforward because IdentityManager comes with a method called destroy credentials, right? So I'm going to destroy my credentials, but I can't just destroy the credentials. I need to reload the page. So I'm going to say window.location, right? Yeah, location, reload. All right, so let's let the application load. Everything's loaded. And let's log out. And again, I'm prompted asking me for permission to sign in. So that I've logged out of the app. So the credentials for my app don't exist, but it doesn't destroy the credentials because I'm logged in over here, right? I don't want to mix that up because I'm logged into my online account and I might still be doing work here. I just want to log out of the app. So don't get too confused. So the application has its own things. If I refresh this here, I should still be logged in. I hope. I think so. Yeah, I'm still logged in to the map viewer and my online account so I can keep doing everything I need to do. I just logged out of my application account, right? So keep that in mind. I've seen people ask that question before. No, it's not going to destroy all your ArcGIS credentials for you, not everything in the browser, because it's separate stuff going on over here, right? So there you go. That's what you need to know. Allow it again, and I'm back into my application, and things are working the way I expect it to. So that's how you can create like a little API to work with your identity manager. Oh, user, I didn't tell you how to do user. Okay, So let's say that I want the user information, right? So here's how you can do that. So one thing to take note, when you do the identity manager and you log in, like I said, it's a singleton. So it's going to set up your credential for whatever OAuth info you've put in there. Meaning that when I instantiate a portal, it's going to give me the portal for that user that has logged in to the application. So if I instantiate that, if I come down here, fetch user, if I say something like const portal is equal to new portal, don't have to pass in anything, just say new portal, and I'm going to go and have to wait. No, I don't. I want to await portal.load, like so. Whoops, like so, and I want to return portal.user. Boom, like that. So now if I come over here to my app, and I'm going to go and say when I load the map, I also want to get the user. So const user is going to be equal to, let's say, fetch user, and I don't pass anything, and we'll say await fetch user. So I forgot to sync, and I'm going to log out console.log. Let's say user, and pass it like so. And here's my user information, username, user type, and then URL. And then what I can do is I can go and say something like, let's say that the buttonauth dot inner text is going to be equal to logout user dot username. So username underscore, yeah, it is. There we go. Now I can log out AutoNet, my account, and you can use this for whatever you want to use it. You can see there's various information about the user, the email, full name, org ID, region, the role, and all kinds of different stuff. But there you go. That is how you can create this little kind of wrapper API around your particular use case for work with the identity manager at the application level. Build a whole like sign in and sign out workflow for your application. Check out the documentation. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. The methods is everything are docked pretty well, right? So you should be able to find the information you're looking for in here. If not, check out some of the guides that we've got. We have an authentication guide. There's a sample for authentication, but it's kind of tricky to show because of the workflow and everything that needs to happen, right? So we do identity manager. Come on. Here we go. Access ArcGIS Align items using Oauth. This is more of a walkthrough instead of like a direct sample. You can see why, because it has, using app IDs and stuff like that. You need to swap it out with your own app IDs. So we can't necessarily have just a straightforward sample the way you normally would with some of the samples in the API. That's why it's a little different to some of the rest, right? Because if we did it that way, it just wouldn't work for you. You wouldn't be able to log in and stuff. But yeah, check out this particular sample. It goes into a lot more. Well, not a lot more. It goes into more detail on how to query items with the portal once you've logged in and stuff like that, and do some pretty cool things there. So check it out. It's useful. Again, look at the doc for the identity manager and build some cool apps. Again, if you've got any questions, list them down below. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
I just want to let you know that I've started a new podcast called The Bounding Box, where I'll be talking about geo development, web development, and everything in between. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and plenty of other places that you can find podcasts. There are a few episodes available now. We are in a bi-weekly schedule, so every other week. Thank you.